Hey everybody, today I want to talk about a few things. So the first thing I want to talk about is I recently got a hold of a Panasonic Q Gameboy Player. The reason Nintendo and Panasonic decided to make a specific Game Boy player for the Panasonic Q is because of its long profile on the side. The regular Game Boy player for the Gamecube wouldn't fit on the bottom of this, so they made a Game Boy player that's a little longer, and it fits right under the Panasonic Q. I'll just show you this side as well. A little dark back there, but... So yeah, this Game Boy player in particular was sold on a website in Japan called Panasense, and I think it sold for a few $100s. But since the popularity of the Panasonic Q took a nosedive, eventually people didn't buy the Panasonic Q Game Boy Player, and eventually it became a collector's item. On the market now, I would say it's a little under what the Panasonic Q console goes for. So it's a pretty penny, but I actually got a pretty good deal on this one. So I'm glad I got it. It's a really nice way to play your Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games. So the second thing I want to talk about are the ways that I play all these games on the Panasonic Q Game Boy Player. So I'll talk about the first method, which is the stock disc, the Game Boy Player startup disc. So this Game Boy player actually came with a Japanese startup disc, but since I have a Panasonic Q that lets me play both American and Japanese games, I figure, why don't I just use the American disc? So that's what I'll be doing. Okay. And for the three games that I'm going to be showing, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Pokemon Yellow, Wario Land 3, and Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. Alright. Let me get this all started up here. One thing I forgot to mention also, just for people to see, I'll be using these component cables in the back to be showing everything on today's video. Okay. Pokemon Yellow. Looks like I need two hands. Alright. Okay, so first method I'll be talking about is the stock Game Boy Player startup disc. The tray sticks sometimes. I have to change the ribbon inside, but until then, I'll have to just give it a little nudge. That's fine. So for me to boot into the American BIOS, I just have to hold the power button a few seconds and it'll load. I literally just started playing this game, so. Oh, this poor Pidgey. Okay. So the main layout of the Game Boy Player, as you can see, let me just get a little up close. It's on 480i, and I'll just show you with see it? 480i. And you can use progressive scan if you'd like, so it would load into 480p, but you know, I'm on a BVM and I'd like to see my scan lines, and with 480p you can't really do that. So, and as everybody knows, these are all the menu options for the Game Boy Player's disc, startup disc. So you have frames on the side, different colors. I like to keep it on black. There's normal size screens, and then there's the full size, which takes up the entire, I guess, screen. Okay. Controller configurations, which I like to keep. The screen filter, which I always like to keep sharp. I've never used this timer, so I don't know what that's about. And changing the game pack, which is what I'll do now. Okay. Just like the regular Game Boy Player for Gamecube, there's a little switch you just flick towards you and it just shoots out. Next game I'll show is Wario Land 3. And excuse me, but I'll have to use two hands again, I believe. There you go. Maybe the game's dirty. Let's see. Give me a sec for the old blowjob. Alright, let's see now. Blowjobs always do it. So, I've never played this game, so I don't know what to really do here. Whoops. Nope. What did I do? Return, I guess? Oh man. Looks like I gotta go back, maybe? Maybe I'll go down. Just get a little closer here. Did I sink all the way to the bottom? Let's see. Oh yeah, I can. But I can't really move much. Okay. Let's try another game. Legend of Zelda Minish Cap. I always forgot Capcom had some say in this game. Exactly where I am, but so the aspect ratio when you have it on full, I like it more for GBA games, if anything, because if anyone's familiar with the aspect ratio, it is a little wider, if I'm not mistaken. So a little bit of a widescreen image isn't so bad for a GBA game. I really forgot where I was. It's been so long since I played this. That's right. Gotta wait for these little things to pop up. There you go. Oh shit. Oh my god. Good thing I don't lose hearts, right? No. There you go. I think you go here to grow? Yeah. There you go. Okay. So that's the stock Game Boy Player disc. It's great, but surprisingly, if anyone could believe this, there is a better way to play your GBA and Game Boy Advance games, and I'll show you. Spit this back out. Yeah, that kind of shut out. Okay, so the second method that I use to play my Game Boy games with my Panasonic Q Gameboy Player is action replay. If people don't know what this can do, aside from cheats, I would look into it. It's really nice. Action replay lets you access a memory card through your a memory card, like a micro SD from the memory card slot in your Gamecube. And in order for you to do that, you need a Gamecube SD card adapter. There you go. So one thing that I haven't really seen in a lot of places or at all is actually this. This is an official SD card adapter for Gamecube. Yeah. You slip in an SD card on the side, and mine is it's actually a micro USB, a micro SD card. So I use this little card adapter to put it inside the slot, and it works. The size of my card inside the adapter is it's 2 gigs, and just for reference, if you're gonna use this method with the action replay, you can load whatever's in this card only up to 4 gigs, if I'm not mistaken. So once you load the action replay, it only reads cards up to 4 gigs. So anything above that, you won't be able to load, or it won't even recognize the data. So you are limited to having a 4 gig stick, but when you load Swiss, which is the program that I use, or that's used to load what I'm about to tell you, that can recognize, if I'm not mistaken, up to 32 gigs. I've tried it myself and it works. Okay, so what this entitles in a whole is using action replay to load a program called Swiss, and from Swiss you load another .dol file called the Game Boy interface. Now the reason why people like the Game Boy interface a little better is because there are different modes that you can use with the Game Boy interface. There's the regular software, there's a low latency, and then an ultra low latency. And so some people complain that the startup disk has a few, I guess, a little bit of lag. Well, the ultra low latency version of this Game Boy interface software has no lag at all. And it looks really, really nice. If I'm not mistaken, or from what I've just seen, the Game Boy startup disk tends to have a little bit of like a fuzziness to it. But the Game Boy interface software definitely polishes all that up, and it gives you a sharper image. So let's try it out. Okay, disc is in there. By the way, this card, It's not very rare. If you look on websites in Japan, for example, I found this on Yahoo Auctions Japan. I bought it for about $30. They seem to float around here and there, but I've never seen one on eBay. So you definitely have to look overseas for this card. And a little bit of a tidbit, this card cannot be used like this one. It can't save game data. It can only hold, I guess, files. Specifically what this card was used for was for Animal Crossing E+, if I'm not mistaken, which is a Japanese exclusive version of Animal Crossing. And what you can do is, by pressing Z on the controller, you can save your pictures at any time you want. And then you could save it on the memory card and then upload it on your computer or whatever you want. So, but of course, for this purpose, kind of using it for homebrew. So, okay. Oop. Okay, let's swap discs. And once again, this is a American, as you can see, for use on US console. So I'll have to use the American BIOS. So power down. Okay. So for the purposes of this video, since this might take a while, is what I wanted to do is I wanted to show all the types of Game Boy interface .dol files. But what I'll do to save time, because it's just going to take a while, is I'll show the regular Game Boy interface software and then the ultra low latency version of it. Okay, so as you saw, Action Replay, it loaded, but then if you take your Swiss file, swiss.dol, and put it as auto exec, it automatically launches into Swiss. And I will give credit to Retro RGB for having that on his website. So let's go to the regular Game Boy interface software. Okay, so you have aspect ratio, which I didn't know this, but the Game Boy Advance is actually 3:2. I didn't know that. So you want to click that. The color matrix, I find the GBI, or the Game Boy interface color matrix, I guess, scheme to look really, really good. And of course, you have different scan modes. So my BVM takes a 240p image and it reads it as a 480i image. So for the purposes of this video, even though I can select 240p at 60 frames per second, I'm still going to do 480i at 60 frames per second. It's pretty much the same thing. Okay, so Game Boy game in there, Pokemon Yellow, and press start when you have everything ready. And the neat thing about the regular Game Boy interface software is that you can scale, and you'll see it when I load the game. It takes a little while, but it's so worth it. So you see options up here. See the 3:2 ratio, 720 by 486, I running at 59.94. So you have a way better view of scan lines here, more so than the Game Boy startup disc, Game Boy Player startup disc. And you have zoom there. Okay. Let me just load the game and I'll show you. Okay. So here's a zoom function. Fills up the entire screen, nothing is lost, and it looks really, really good. Let's see how he's feeling. Oh, he's pissed. Okay, so in order for you to go back into the regular menu, the Swiss menu, unfortunately you have to reboot the game. So I'll be doing this a few more times just for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy, the Game Boy game and the Game Boy Advance game. So, okay. So that was the regular Game Boy interface software without, you know, any low latency or ultra low latency options. Okay. So now I'll show you ultra low latency. There's literally no options other than what you play. And that, what you just see, the stretch, that's the default L and R option for Game Boy Advance when it comes to Game Boy games. So there you have some really good scan lines, and I apologize for the image going back and forth, but that's just my TV. I'm using an iPhone for this. That looks better, sort of. How do you fail a tail whip? Anyways. Okay, so now I'll be showing Game Boy Advance. I suck at this game, so I'm not gonna show that. Okay. Okay, so once again, I'll be loading up the regular Game Boy interface software with all the options as such. One thing I found out actually is you need to have all of the options checked in order for it to recognize what you want. Even if you select it and you uncheck it, it won't recognize the change. Okay, press start. And once again, it takes a few seconds, but so worth it. Okay. So once again, see all my settings up there. Just zoom in a little bit. There you go. Just go in there a little bit also. Okay, so now let's see what ultra low latency looks like with Game Boy Advance games. Alrighty. Okay, so GBI ultra low latency. There you go. The only problem I have with ultra low latency is that, as you can see, it's a very small portion of my monitor. But obviously, you have different Game Boy interface options, such as low latency or even the regular software, to accommodate for that. So this is pretty much if you want a lag-free solution, you know? But as you can see, getting up close, it looks amazing. Okay, so those are the two ways I like to play my Game Boy games on my Panasonic Q. Just for simplicity's sake, I tend to lean towards the default Game Boy Player startup disc, but obviously if you want a little more features and a crisper image and, you know, a little more of an involved setup, like taking an SD card or, you know, buying the action replay disc, I would definitely recommend using Swiss and the Game Boy interface software. It's amazing. I like it better than the actual startup disc, but that's just personal preference. Alright, I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and until next time.